Good morning, everyone. Spring has arrived here in Munich, and so did HALCON 2405. Today, I'm very happy to welcome you to our release webinar. Again, we have worked on many interesting things over the last few months and are thrilled to present you the improvements of HALCON today. My name is Marcus. I'm part of Evitech's marketing team, and again, I'm very happy to guide you to today's webinar. Some information beforehand. Of course, there will be a Q&A session, so if you have questions, simply write them in the GoToWebinar chat. Of course, you will also receive a follow-up mailing with a recording and the handout. And now, I think we're ready to present you our experts of today. So please join me on stage, Jan and Nielkant. And yeah, quickly introduce yourself to the audience so everybody knows who you are.
I can start. My name is Jan Gärtner. I'm the product manager for HALCON, and I'm really happy today to present you the newest features together with my colleague.
Hi, I'm Nielkant. I work as an application engineer in the customer services department at MVTech.
Thank you, guys. And I can see that some people are still trickling in. So in the meantime, let's give them a little bit more time to arrive. Can you tell me, like, how do you feel about the new release? Are you happy it's finally there? I think it's a big relief after all this work.
For sure it is. And of course, we are super excited to present the features today, and also super happy that like one more release is done and we can focus now on the next release, 2411, after this day.
Yeah, before the release is after the release.
Exactly.
All right. And yeah, you want to give the audience like a quick insight how the release day works here at MVTech?
Okay, for sure we can. Like the release day itself, it's super relaxed because basically all the work is done. We are uploading our releases, binaries the day before, so we are done, and then we are ordering donuts and enjoying the day and the launch. So enjoying the day together, and then the next day for sure we are going back to work, and working on the next release.
So the donuts are coming today?
Yeah, they're coming today.
Perfect. Then we should finally start with the webinar. So thanks very much for your introduction. And now, have fun with the webinar. And we see each other later. If you have questions, simply write them to the chat. And see you soon.
Thank you, Marcus.
Okay, then let's start and dive into the newest features of HALCON 2405. So in today's webinar, we have on the one hand major features of this release. Then we have additional usability improvements and speed ups. And at the end, we also want to provide you some information about a new version of the software manager and the deep learning tool. So let's start with the major features. For this release, we focused on 4 major application areas. Those are matching, code reading, 3D, and deep learning. Starting with matching today, for sure, I think you know our shape matching technology. And with this release, we extended this functionality, and we are now offering an extended parameter estimation for shape matching. For those who are not familiar with this technology, it's a technology where you're at the beginning creating a shape or loading a shape, a template, and then you're optimizing some parameters, and later on you can find the shapes inside, or the object instances inside the final image. So it's a task that has to be solved really often, and what we got, or the feedback we got, is that the optimized parameters part could be sometimes really time consuming. So this time we focused on making this a little bit easier. And why we are doing this, here we have 3 major reasons. The first reason I slightly mentioned before, we want to make the creation of new solutions faster. So instead setting all the parameters manually, those parameters should be estimated automatically. Then another task is teaching new objects. So maybe inside the production line, you're changing from one object to another one. So maybe one cookie to another type of cookies. Then you usually have to set the parameters again. And it's also really helpful if those parameters are also set automatically. Last but not least, another type of application, you might have already finished a solution, but you never touched the initial parameters. So you can speed up or make your application more robust when you find the optimal parameters for your finished solution later on. How this technology works in detail will Nilkant show you now.
Thank you, Jan. So the concept behind this feature is to estimate the extended parameters with minimum number of input data. So let's see what the input data is. First and foremost is the edge template of the model that you want to search in your image. And this is the same as in all our previous versions, as you can see here. Now, apart from template, additionally, there are some samples which you have to give in as input to enable the estimation of certain extended parameters. Let's take the example of min score here. And in this case, we would like to optimize the min score parameter when we train the shape model. Now, before we see what the samples are exactly, let's have a look at the workflow first. So the workflow remains almost the same, except for one additional step here. We start off by creating the generic shape model, and then we set the shape model parameters, the training samples here. So this is where all the samples are given as input. And then comes the train generic shape model, where the extended parameters are trained and estimated, and then you can use the fine generic shape model to actually find the model in your images. So this is the additional step that has been added where you give in the training samples. So, but what are these training samples here? Let's have a closer look. So each training sample has one image and one or more regions. And what do these regions represent? They represent the instance of the object that you want to actually search in your image. So in this case, you see an image and there is one match instant, and the region is a labeled region, the outline of the instance that has to be found. Now, let's have a look at another example here. Here we can see that the same image has three regions. What is important to note is that your samples must be a representative of all the realistic, all the real cases that can come in your application, which might lead to a very minimum min score value. For example, cases like occlusion, like what we see in this image here, or a noisy image, or sometimes images with distortion, should all be included in your samples to get a better estimate of your extended parameter. And what does the input look like? So what's the type of the training samples that we have to give as input here? So the training sample is a tuple of dictionaries where each dictionary represents a single sample. And each dictionary, as you can see, has two keys, the image and the region key. Image is the input image, and the region can be one or more regions depending on the number of instances that you have in the training in the input image. So the next step is the training, where the parameters are estimated, and finally you can apply the fine generic shape model to find your results. So what is the advantage of this new feature? First and foremost, it improves the usability of shape matching. And what does that mean? Sometimes it is time consuming and it takes a lot of trial and error attempts to find an optimal value for parameters like min score. And with this new feature, HALCON automatically estimates the value of the parameter like min score, and so the training time and the time to create a solution is much faster. And additionally, the workflow remains the same except for one extra step where you have to give in your input data.
Thank you, Nilkant. If you would like to learn more about this technology, you can simply have a look into our standard example called Train Generic Shape Model Sample Workflow. And I'd just like to remind you, with this release, we are estimating the min score, and for the upcoming releases, we are planning adding more and more parameters here. So basically covering almost any parameter with the extended parameter estimation. And we also have some other great ideas to make the shape matching more easy. That's about the matching. And then we also have improvements in the field of code reading. With this release, we focused on the GS1 data bar expanded stacked code. It's a code that is often used on consumer products, so you can find it in the supermarket, in the grocery, and basically on many consumer products. And here we work together with some partners to make this code, our code reader, more stable and faster. And this works especially for deformed codes, so hard to read GS1 codes. And with the newest release, you can see we get better results here. But that's just one example image. I think some numbers would help here to see how much the code reader has improved. And on our internal benchmark, we tested this, and here we measured the recall. The recall is are the correctly read codes of all codes within the image. And with HALCON 2311, we had a recall of around 43%. And now we could reach with HALCON 2405 a recall of 70%. So the overall recall got a lot better now with this new code reader. And you might ask why we don't reach the 100%. So it's an internal data set. It's really difficult. And I think reaching the 100% would be almost impossible. And that's why even 70% here is a great result. And then we have some other news about the QR code reader.
Yes, so in QR codes, there are two models, Model 1 and Model 2, like you can see on the slide here. So Model 1 is now outdated and has been removed from the ISO standards. And Model 2 is the newer version or the advanced version of QR codes with an alignment pattern, as you can see in the screen that is shown in orange here. So what's the change in HALCON regarding the QR codes here? So QR codes of type Model 1 can no longer be found with default parameters, standard, and enhanced recognition. This doesn't mean that QR codes of Model 1 can no longer be found in HALCON. They can be found when the default parameter is set to maximum recognition, as you can see here. Additionally, QR codes of Model 1 can also be found by setting the model type parameter to either 1 or any. So this is a small change in the QR codes.
Thank you. So important to note, if you have a QR code, Model 1 that is not found anymore with your updated HALCON application, make sure that you set the parameters correctly. In the field of 3D, we this time added a new file format into HALCON. So we added the step file format, and it's a file format many customers asked us the last years for, and it's the industrial standard for 3D CAD data exchange. So almost any professional CAD software does support this file format, and now it's supported by HALCON as well. And it's really easy to use, so we added this file format to our read object model 3D operator next to all the other file formats that are already supported, like OBJ, STL. You could now also use step files inside HALCON really easily with just one operator call. Another technical detail about.
Let's have a closer look at the step file, reading a step file here. So when a step file is read, what happens is that the geometric structure of the object is converted into a mesh of triangles. Now there's a new parameter here called the max surface deviation, which represents how accurate or how accurate the meshing of the triangles should be. So in other terms, it's something similar to the resolution of the object that has been read. Now, if max surface deviation has a very low value, this means the object that you want as a HALCON object model 3D has a very high resolution, which means it has more number of points and triangles, and therefore it takes a longer time to read such models. Now, when max deviation has a higher value, in this case, the resolution is lesser, but you can read the object faster. And furthermore, there is a default value for max surface deviation. When you set it to auto, HALCON automatically estimates an optimal value for max surface deviation. And in this case, you don't have to do anything, and the object is read in HALCON as a 3D object model.
So here really important to note, so usually you just need the auto mode. If you have specific requirements, high resolution, really fast speed, you can adjust the parameter, but usually can just use the auto mode. For deep learning, we this time worked on two new features. One's in addition to the additional feature for the global context anomaly detection, and then as well we worked on an OpenVINO plugin, an updated version of it. For the global context anomaly detection, we added the possibility to restrict the inference image domain. And the reason behind is that we are not living in the perfect world. So often we want to inspect an object that you could see here on the left, but the object itself that we want to inspect looks okay or has a defect, but sometimes it can happen that there's a blur in the background or some defect that doesn't matter for the actual inspection. And with HALCON, until HALCON 2311, those defects in the background would lead into a not okay prediction, because the global context anomaly detection analyzes the whole image. With HALCON 2405, we added the possibility to restrict the inference image domain, so you can select which part of the image you really want to inspect, and all the other parts of the image are basically ignored during the estimation. How does it work? That will Nikant show you now.
Yes. Before we take a look at the workflow, it's important to note that the first 3 steps in GCAD, the preparation, training, and evaluation, doesn't change at all. We are now speaking only about the inference stage or the integration stage here. So what are the steps involved? First, we define a domain and we reduce the image to that specific domain. And then we retain this domain by setting the new parameter domain handling to keep domain. So this is the new feature that has been introduced here. And then comes pre-processed TL sample and apply deep learning model, and the following steps remain the same. Now, let's have a closer look at an example of a printed circuit board here.
So as you can see, it's really easy to use. You just have to set one parameter, and this feature is also useful if you want to check multiple parts, for example, of a PCB board separately. So you could simply first inspect the center part here, and you can check if the right component is placed. Then you can check in a second inference step if the lid is set correctly. And last but not least, you could check the connector. And all those checks you can now do with the same model. So you're training the model, and then you can use it for multiple inspections. But keep in mind, with every inference, the whole image is evaluated in the background. So if you have really large images, it could be faster to train many small images. So it always depends on your specific application, what you want to do. And speaking about speed, another topic that is really important is for our customers often the OpenVINO plugin, the AI2 plugin. And here we are releasing a new version, the 21.5.3. With this new version, we have updated the OpenVINO toolkit that works under the hood of this plugin from the 2021 LTS to the 2023 LTS. So you might have seen from the version numbering, this plugin starts with 21.05, and that means that's compatible with all HALCON versions starting from 21.05. In conclusion, it means also the latest steady version 22.11 can use this plugin for inference and get some benefits. One benefit here is the wider hardware support. With the new OpenVINO plugin, we support more hardware, for example, the Intel Core Ultra CPUs, the latest Intel Core CPUs and Intel Xeon CPUs, as well as the latest Intel Arc GPUs. One thing that was removed from the plugin now is the Intel Neural Compute Stick, as well as the Intel Movidus hardware. Those are already legacy, so they will not be supported anymore if you still want to use them, you could simply use the old version of the plugin. And a second thing that's better with the new plugin now is the speed. And here Nilkan will show more about.
Yes, sure. So one new feature which has been introduced is the new data type bfloat16. bfloat16 is an alternative to float16, and what is its advantage? It represents the same range of numbers as float32, but occupies the same amount of memory as float16. So this also means that the precision offered by bfloat16 is slightly lesser than float32, but for deep learning applications, it is extremely fast, and it also occupies a very minimum space compared to float32. Now, let's have a closer look at how you can make use of bfloat16 in your deep learning applications. In our workflow, first, we query all the available deep learning devices. We set the AI accelerator interface to OpenVINO, and then we set the type to either CPU or GPU. And then in the second step, in optimized deep learning model for inference, here under precision parameter, we set the type either float32, float16, or bfloat16 here. And what is interesting is, like on the same machine, this step has to be done just once. And then comes the next step where you apply the deep learning model to perform the inference. Now, let's have a look at some statistics here regarding bfloat16 and its performance.
Yep. And regarding the performance, we can say it's really great because it's a lot faster. For you, we have benchmarked here our classification models, so the compact model, the enhanced model, and the ResNet16 model. On the left-hand side, you can see the inference time for the standard HALCON CPU implementation. The next three groups of bars are representing the CPU OpenVINO implementation for float32, float16, and bfloat16. And what you can see here, in general, the OpenVINO implementation is always a lot faster. So you should make sure that you're always using the OpenVINO implementation here to speed up your application. And now with the new bfloat16 precision, the overall speed is even faster. So it can make sense to use the bfloat16 precision instead of float16 or float32. But keep in mind, a different precision can also influence your accuracy. So you should always check whether your accuracy requirements, and then you can choose the right precision for your application. On the right-hand side, you can see that the new OpenVINO plugin also supports GPUs. Here we tested it for float32 and float16. You might now ask, why not bfloat16? So not every hardware device does support bfloat16. So you have to check which hardware supports bfloat16, and depending on that, you can select your target hardware. We also benchmarked our other deep learning models, and the overall picture is the same for all our models. That means the OpenVINO implementation does really speed up your inference, and the bfloat16 in general is always faster than the other implementations with the HALCON models. That's about the speed. I think you see it's a great speed up for your deep learning solutions. And then there's another detail that has changed as well.
Yes, regarding the OpenVINO toolkit here, previously what happened was the users could install a specific OpenVINO installation and set it in the path environment variable. This was leading to a lot of DLL incompatibilities where the toolkit loads the wrong DLLs. Therefore, from HALCON 24.05, the OpenVINO AI Square plugin enforces the use of the OpenVINO toolkit provided in the HALCON installation itself. And this installation can be found under HALCON root in the third parties library under OpenVINO folder. So this is another small improvement in the OpenVINO sector.
Thank you. And now let's speak about, okay, that had basically been the major features of HALCON 24.5. And now we can go over to the usability improvements and speed ups that we are providing with HALCON 2405. So first of all, a minor change for the variable inspect extension. It's an extension for the Visual Studio to observe all your HALCON images and regions within a Visual Studio environment. And this extension does now have a different design. So it's the design is also supported with the dark theme. So depending on your selection in your Visual Studio environment, it does fit better into the Visual Studio look.
So another handy feature is that the dev-get system has a new parameter called the call stack, where the users can actually see the call stack during execution. Now, let's have a look at a small example here. So we have the main procedure, which calls procedure 1 on line number 2. And in procedure 1, we call procedure 2 at line number 3. And in procedure 2, we call the call stack in line number 4. Now, how does the output look like? So this is the output, where the first procedure is the main. In the second line, we call procedure 1. And in the third line, we call procedure 2. So with the call stack, it makes debugging very easy, and it's a very handy tool to find out errors during your execution.
For the def-this-text operator, we now add an additional argument, and that's called rotate phi. And with this additional argument, you can now rotate the text. So it's, for example, here orientated perfectly to the found bounding box. So it's a visualization improvement here for the def-this-text operator. We also worked this time on a new technical node for HALCON, the HALCON memory management technical node. And in this technical node, we are explaining how the memory management of HALCON works. Because often in the past, customers asked us, hey, we found a problem, why is the HALCON application that big? And we want to understand more how the HALCON memory management and caches behave. And those questions we are now answering with this technical node that you can simply find in the technical note section inside the documentation.
Yes, so this is a very interesting technical note here, because a lot of customers have asked, like, how does HALCON caches work? What are the different types of HALCON caches, and how can HALCON caches be either turned on or turned off? So, or any user who wants to, go deep into memory management, understand how memory management happens, this technical note would be very helpful. But it is also important to note that this technical note is need not be read by everybody, because HALCON performs memory management on its own. So this technical note helps those people who want to really understand and go deep into memory management. Otherwise, HALCON normally does everything on its own automatically.
Thank you. What we are also addressing here is in the new release, is the Intel downfall micro update. Some of you might have heard about that Intel had a security vulnerability that affected, that Intel patched, like with the BIOS patch, you could solve this problem, but that affected the performance of many programs and applications because Intel changed the behavior of some instructions, and now the overall program or solution is slower as before. This does also affect HALCON. So we measured this performance degeneration, and we saw that for some specific configurations of operator and data types, the slowdown up to 70% for a specific operator could happen. And we want to guarantee a good overall performance for our operators. And for this reason, this time, we worked on reducing the slowdown or creating even a speed up for those operators which are affected from the microcode update. Nilkant, what do we have to do to benefit from this improvement in HALCON?
So the user actually need not do anything, because HALCON automatically detects processors that have been affected by the by the security issue, and it automatically disables the gather instructions. Gather instructions are instructions that are used to allocate objects in your program. Now, the user can also, with get system operator, find the recommended instruction settings here. And in certain cases where the user has a specific application and has specific requirements, and the user wants to set a specific instruction set, that can also be performed by using the set system parameter and setting the specific gather instructions to either true or false.
And do you have some examples for us that show how the performance is now with the updated HALCON version?
Yes, the users can always have a look at our release notes where everything has been described in detail. However, we have a couple of examples to show you what are the changes in certain operators that from this feature and from this change here. The first example is map image for bytes and uint2 images. As you can see in our previous version, on affected and patched CPUs, the performance had gone down by up to 70%. But with the new HALCON version, this performance loss has been completely compensated for, and now we are up to 30% faster for map image on affected CPUs, affected and patched CPUs. Another example is a fine trans image in the bicubic mode for byte and real images. In the previous version, we had a performance loss of up to 65%, but now that has been completely compensated for. And for byte images, as you can see with the new version, we are up to 20% faster, and for real images, we are up to 40% faster. So these two are just examples of two specific operators. The performance changes based on operator, changes based on the image type, and various other parameters in a specific operator. But this is just to give you an idea of how the change looks like.
And as mentioned in the beginning, not all Intel CPUs are affected. So specific Intel CPUs are affected of this vulnerability. And so make sure that if you patch it, that you also update your HALCON version. If you don't patch your Intel CPU, it might not necessary. But that's about the Intel security vulnerability. But also we looked in all of those operators, and I think we could find some additional speedups as well. Could you show us more about Nikant?
Yes. So processors that have not been affected by the security issue have also benefited greatly from all the optimizations from HALCON 24.05. An example here is map image, once again for byte and uint2 images. With the new version, you can see that map image is up to 40% faster on non-affected CPUs. Another example is the zoom image operator for byte images. Here we can see that in the new version HALCON 24.05, we are up to 65% faster on non-affected CPUs compared to the previous version. So these are once again a couple of examples, and you can see that there has been a lot of speedups here, also on non-affected CPUs.
That's super cool, because I think speedups is one thing our customers are always asking for. So we're really happy to provide you some here in this webinar. Another note here at the end of this section, a legacy note, we want to inform you that we set the component-based matching operator set now to legacy. Why that? We have learned what is this technology? It's a technology to find multiple components which are in relation to each other and to find them inside the image. What we have learned is that many customers are using the shape matching instead of the specific component-based matching. And for that reason, we want to remove this functionality long-term from our library. But right now it's legacy, so you can still use it, but it's not maintained any longer. And at some point in the future, we will remove it from our library. With that, we are at the end of the HALCON part of this webinar. And I just want to summarize what you have seen here today. So we showed you the extended parameter estimation for shape matching to make the overall parameter estimation more easier. Then we improved the GS1 data bar expanded stack code reader. We added a new file format, the 3D step file format. And for deep learning, we improved our global context anomaly detection, as well as that we added a new plugin for OpenVINO plugin to HALCON. That's basically about HALCON. And now I like to also talk about the software manager and the deep learning tool. Starting with the software manager, I like to tell you that we have already released a new version of the software manager that you can download right now. It's the version 1.5. And with that new version, you can create custom offline installer within the software manager. The big advantage here is that you can create specific installers for your requirements. Because in our online download area, you find a full installer and a runtime installer. But for example, this runtime installer doesn't include deep learning and maybe include too many acquisition interfaces that you don't need. Now here, with the new feature of the software manager, you can simply create a runtime installer specifically for your need. And really nice as well is that you can also create installers for other target platforms. So you might working on a Windows machine, but you need a custom installer for your embedded ARM platform. Then you can simply select your target architecture, create your custom installer, and later on deploy it on your embedded device. Really easy. Together with that, I like to inform you that we will remove the runtime installer from our online download area, because you can basically create a better runtime installer on your local machine. But for sure, we will keep the full offline installer online, so you can always download the full offline installer and then create your specific runtime installer. If you are using the software manager and not the full installer, usually you have to log in into your MV login account. And for that, you use the software manager browser window in the past. So you logged in with your credentials, but that is now possible with the terminal as well. So it's really useful when you are working as well, again, on an embedded machine that's headless, so you don't have screen connected. Then you can simply log in via command line interface and put in your credentials or scan the QR code to log in with your MV login account. That's the news about the software manager. And then we also have other news about the deep learning tool. Here I'm really happy to tell you that we are releasing a new version of the deep learning tool on the 23rd of May this year. And this new version has two features inside. The one is the pilot program for the OEM edition, and the second feature is a support for the Halo calibration. Let's have a look into the first feature first. Here, the OEM edition. With the OEM edition, you can customize the look and feel of the deep learning tool to your specific corporate identity design guidelines. So you might want to deliver the deep learning tool together with your final application to the end user, but in the past, the deep learning tool looked like an MVTech product and not like your product. Now you could customize this look and feel so it feels more like a product that you have created, and you get an better overall package for your customer. You can also customize the methods that are offered in the deep learning tool. So for example, you might only need semantic segmentation because your application is only doing semantic segmentation. Then you can disable all the other functionalities so your customer only sees the features that they need. If you're interested in this pilot program, you can also get a specific license that is not limited to 2 years. It could be a lifetime license, and you also get a specific end user license agreement. If you are interested becoming part of the pilot program, come to us. We will have a custom pricing in this beginning, and basically ask your regional sales manager about this new option. For all our users as well, we added the calibration for the Halo AI accelerator chips. So for those who don't know this, it's a really great deep learning accelerator made for industrial platforms, embedded and smart cameras. And now with the new deep learning tool, you can optimize your deep learning models for the HALO inference chips. The benefits of the HALO inference chips is that they're very fast, and they also have a low power consumption, so you can process many images with only a small power consumption. And also here, really nice, it is if you have like an embedded device and you have an HALO chip inside that device, you can simply train and optimize your deep learning models inside the deep learning tool, for example, on a Windows machine, and later on send it to an embedded device, so you can optimize your models really easy on a personal computer. Right now, we are at the end of the webinar. I want to say thank you that you listened to all those new contents. Now we have a small Q&A that we will post into the chat, and we have a small survey that we will post into the chat now, and later on, like in 5 minutes, we will start with the Q&A session. Thank you.